Welcome to Global Bible Reading. The book of 1 Samuel. Reading from the English version for the deaf. Chapter 18. After David finished talking with Saul, Jonathan became very close to David. Jonathan loved David as much as he loved himself. Saul kept David with him from that day on. Saul did not let David go back home to his father. Jonathan loved David very much. Jonathan made an agreement with David. Jonathan took off the coat he was wearing and gave it to David. Jonathan also gave David his uniform. Jonathan even gave David his bow, his sword, and his belt. Saul sent David to fight in many different battles, and David was very successful. Then Saul put David in charge of the soldiers. This pleased everyone, even Saul's officers. David would go out to fight against the Philistines. On the way home after the battles, women in every town in Israel would come out to meet David. They laughed and danced and played drums and lutes. They did this right in front of Saul. The women sang, "Saul has killed thousands of enemies, but David has killed tens of thousands." The women's song upset Saul, and he became very angry. Saul thought, the women say David killed tens of thousands of enemies, and they said, "I kill only thousands of enemies." So from that time on, Saul watched David very closely. The next day, a bad spirit from God took control of Saul. Saul became wild in his house. David played the harp like he usually did, but Saul had a spear in his hand. Saul thought, "I will pin David to the wall." Saul threw the spear 2 times, but David escaped both times. The Lord was with David, and the Lord had left Saul. So Saul was afraid of David. Saul sent David away from him. Saul made David a commander over 1,000 soldiers. David led the soldiers in battle. The Lord was with David, so David was successful in everything. Saul saw that David was very successful, and Saul became more and more afraid of David. But all the people of Israel and Judah loved David. They loved him because he led them into battle and fought for them. But Saul wanted to kill David. Saul thought of a way to trick David. Saul said to David, "Here is my oldest daughter, Merab. I will let you marry her. Then you can become a powerful soldier. You will be like a son to me. Then you will go and fight the Lord's battles." This was a trick Saul was really thinking. "Now I won't have to kill David. I will let the Philistines kill him for me." But David said, "I am not from an important family, and I am not an important man. I cannot marry the king's daughter." So when the time came for Saul's daughter Merab to marry David, Saul let her marry Adriel from Meholah. Saul's other daughter, Michal, loved David. The people told Saul that Michal loved David. This made Saul happy. Saul thought, "I will use Michal to trap David. I will let Michal marry David, and then I will let the Philistines kill him." So Saul said to David a second time, "You can marry my daughter today." Saul gave an order to his officers. Saul told them, "Speak to David in private. Tell him, 'Look, the king likes you. His officers like you. You should marry his daughter.'" Saul's officers said to those things to David. But David answered, "Do you think it is easy to become the king's son-in-law? I don't have the money to pay for the king's daughter. I am just a poor ordinary guy." Saul's officers told Saul that David said. Saul told them, "Say this to David. David the king doesn't want you to pay money for his daughter. Saul wants to get even with his enemy. So the price for marrying his daughter is 100 Philistine foreskins." That was Saul's secret plan. Saul thought the Philistines would kill David. Saul's officers told those things to David. David was happy that he had a chance to become the king's son-in-law. So he did something immediately. David and his men went out to fight the Philistines. They killed 200 Philistines. David took these Philistines' foreskins and gave them to Saul. David did this because he wanted to become the king's son-in-law. Saul let David marry his daughter Michal. Saul saw that the Lord was with David. Saul also saw that his daughter Michal loved David. So Saul became even more afraid of David. Saul was against David all that time. The Philistine commanders continued to go out to fight the Israelites, but every time David defeated them. David was Saul's best officer. David became famous. Chapter 19. Saul told his son Jonathan and his officers to kill David, but Jonathan liked David very much. Jonathan warned David, "Be careful, Saul is looking for a chance to kill you. In the morning, go into the field and hide. I will go out into the field with my father. We will stand in the field where you are hiding. I will talk to my father about you. Then I will tell you what I learned." Jonathan asked to his father Saul. Jonathan said good things about David. Jonathan said, "You are the king. David is your servant. David hasn't done anything wrong to you, so don't do anything wrong to him. David has always been good to you." David risked his life when he killed the Philistine, Goliath. The Lord won a great victory for all Israel. You saw it. You were happy. Why do you want to hurt David? He is innocent. There is no reason to kill him. Saul listened to Jonathan. Saul made a promise. Saul said, "As surely as the Lord lives, David wouldn't be put to death." So Jonathan called David and told him everything that was said. Then Jonathan brought David to Saul. So David was with Saul like before. War started again, and David went out to fight the Philistines. David defeated the Philistines, and they ran away from him. But a bad spirit from the Lord came on Saul. Saul was sitting in his house. Saul had his spear in his hand. David was playing the harp. Saul tried to throw his spear into David's body and pin him to the wall, but David jumped out of the way. The spear missed David and stuck in the wall. That night David ran away. Saul sent men to David's house. The men watched David's house. They stayed there all night. They were waiting to kill David in the morning. But David's wife Michal warned him. She said, "You must run away tonight and save your life. If you don't, then you will be killed tomorrow." Then Michal let David down out of a window. David escaped and ran away. Michal took the household god and put clothes on it. Then she put that statue in the bed. She also put goat's hair on its head. Saul sent messengers to take David prisoner. But Michal said, "David is sick." The man went and told Saul, but he sent the messengers back to see David. Saul told this man, "Bring David to me. Bring him lying on his bed. If you must, I will kill him." The messengers went to David's house. They went inside to get David, but they saw it was only a statue on the bed. And they saw its hair was only goat's hair. Saul said to Michal, "Why did you trick me like this? You let my enemy escape. David has run away." Michal answered Saul, "David told me he would kill me if I did not help him escape." David escaped and ran away to Samuel at Ramah. David told Samuel everything that Saul had done to him. Then David and Samuel went to the caves where the prophets stay. David stayed there. Saul heard that David was there in the caves near Ramah. Saul sent men to arrest David. But when those men came to the caves, there was a group of prophets prophesying. Samuel was standing there leading the group. God's Spirit came on Saul's messengers and they began prophesying. Saul heard about this, so he sent other messengers, but they also began prophesying. So Saul sent messengers a third time, and they also began prophesying. Finally, Saul himself went to Ramah. Saul came to the big well by the threshing floor. As Saul, Saul asked, "Where are Samuel and David?" The people answered, "The caves near Ramah." Then Saul went out to the caves near Ramah. God's Spirit also came on Saul, and Saul began prophesying. Saul prophesied more and more all the way to the caves at Ramah. Then Saul took off his clothes. So even Saul was prophesying there in front of Samuel. Saul lay there naked all day and all night. That is why people said, "Is Saul also one of the prophets?"